Warning: some of the stories today are dark and disturbing and briefly mention sexual assault. If you cannot handle dark topics like that, please click off of this and listen to something else. There will be warnings in the timestamps in the pinned comment in case you want to skip over any of these stories. You have been warned. Without further ado, let's get into the stories. I'm a female from the UK, and the story's on my mind a lot right now because this happened to me last December, and the 1-year anniversary of it is fast approaching. I have a girlfriend I'll refer to as E, and me and E absolutely love Christmas. We aren't religious, but we just really love this holiday. We're the type to have the tree up at midnight on November 1st. I've always wanted to have a winter holiday in a snowy cabin somewhere quiet. Fuzzy blankets in front of a roaring fireplace vibes, lying wrapped up with hot chocolate. That was the dream. Well, E knew this was something that I wanted to do one day. And since we both love winter and Christmas, she decided to surprise me with my dream holiday. The plan was we would drive to a nearby sleepy town and we were booked to stay in this log cabin. It was situated next to other cabins, so other people would be around. It was like a campground for cabins, and it was secluded with very dense forest all around, and the town was pretty coastal, so there were gorgeous views of the water. It wasn't snowing, but it was pretty icy, and I was so happy I was finally getting my little winter log cabin trip. Now, even though we live in Scotland, my girlfriend is Irish, and her accent is prominent, and in my experience, lots of people are very interested in Irish accents. So I was used to people fawning over her accent sometimes. This was never done in a creepy way, but people tended to compliment her on her voice. When we were at the cabin, there were a few families and other couples who all seemed pretty friendly. We were staying in our cabin for the weekend, and the first night was perfect with no issues except for one thing. I woke up in the middle of the night with this weird sensation that I was being watched. I thought it was just paranoia because it sounds so cliche and stupid, but I couldn't shake this weird feeling. I checked my phone and it was like 3 a.m., which made me more convinced I was being stupid since 3 a.m. is like the time paranormal things are supposed to happen in horror movies. I went to the bathroom and went back to bed, but I'd struggled to fall back to sleep. The next morning, I told my girlfriend what I'd experienced, and she was her usual caring self, but she told me that she had slept fine and hadn't had any issues herself. The second day at the cabin was really nice and romantic, but it's also when things got creepier. We were in the campground area just walking around when we had spotted this guy on his own. I don't know why he stood out because he looked like a normal middle-aged guy. But something about him was just weird. This creepy energy just oozed from him, and I felt chills when I locked eyes with him. He was sitting by himself drinking an energy drink and smoking, and he was staring right at us. My girlfriend sensed my unease, and she later told me she got a creepy vibe from the guy too. He didn't try to talk to us, but he was staring and it was weird. The rest of the day carried on as normal. But we kept noticing this guy lurking around our cabin, and even as night fell, he was lurking around. We weren't sure what to do, but it gets dark in the UK early in December, so it's black outside by like 3 p.m. sometimes. We were outside at one point, and he had strolled over asking us if we were enjoying our holiday, and he told us he couldn't help but notice us from his cabin not too far away. My girlfriend replied that we were indeed enjoying our trip, and when he heard her Irish accent, he grinned like a Cheshire cat, and it was so creepy. He started asking her all about her Irish heritage, which was innocent enough, but the entire time he just kept leering at my girlfriend, and it was really creeping me out, but also making me mad as well. It took ages for us to make him go away because he just kept dragging out the conversation, even when we said we had to go. He even tried to joke that he should come in and join us for a warm drink and a meal. But my girlfriend had had enough at that point, and she sternly told him to leave. His eyes looked dark when she told him that, and he stomped off laughing to himself, which creeped me out. When we were in our cabin, we had the curtains pulled for privacy and warmth like any normal person would, and that night we both fell asleep on the floor. I woke up to my girlfriend tapping me and whispering in my ear to wake up. I was groggy, but I immediately knew that something was up. She asked me if I'd heard any noises, and she'd just woken up swearing that someone had been tapping on the windows. I was confused because the windows were pretty spaced out, and to have woken up my girlfriend, it must have been really loud because she's usually a heavy sleeper. We were creeped out. I told her I hadn't heard anything, and we stupidly agreed to go outside to check. This is what freaked me the hell out. When we went outside, there were handprints on the windows surrounding the sides of the cabin, and at the bedroom window we saw there were a bunch of old cigarette butts. Me and my girlfriend were really freaked out seeing this, understandably, and my mind flashed back to the night before when I'd felt watched. It really creeped me out to think that someone was maybe standing outside our cabin windows trying to peer in and spy on us. It creeped me out as we're two females, and my mind instantly assumed the worst case scenarios. We rushed back into the cabin and we were really creeped out and we weren't really sure what to do. We had phone service because the place where we're at wasn't that remote to lose it. It was late at night, but I called my mom because she's always someone I can depend on and turn to in situations like this. My girlfriend began packing our stuff, telling me we should leave just in case some freak is trying to break in. We searched the cabin when we got back inside and we didn't find anything. My mom answered the phone and she echoed my girlfriend when she said we should leave. I got dressed in the proper clothing and we piled into the car and we just left. We didn't see anything and we drove straight to my mom's house, which was 2 hours away from where we were at. But we made it there in just over an hour because the roads were quiet and we drove fast on adrenaline. I can't prove that creepy guy was spying on us, but I really think he was. And it still creeps me out to this day just knowing that he was probably just lurking in the dark up to something creepy. My girlfriend and I have another cabin trip booked for the end of this month, but it's over the New Year period this time. It isn't at the same place, but we don't want what happened to spoil the holiday for either of us. Going to another place is like our way of reclaiming what happened and building more positive memories instead of that creepy one. The cabin we're going to this time is much more secure, and we have a good feeling about it. I just want to say to anyone listening, never let your guard down. Even when you're on holiday and even at the most wonderful time of the year, people are crazy, and there's a lot of perverts and lunatics out there. Thank you all for listening to my story. Stay safe, everyone, and of course, happy holidays. At the time of this story, I was an 11-year-old female. It was Christmas Eve in 1991, and our neighbor was having a party. They lived about 300 meters to the right of our house, and our other neighbor lived about 400 meters to our left. The neighbor to our left was a 45-year-old man. Let's call him Timmy. He was an alcoholic single, and he lived alone. Our family regarded him as a friend. He would come to our house and play 8-ball, have dinner, and just hang out. My mom and us kids would also visit him. My parents were divorced. I had an older sister, younger brother, and a little sister. When we visited Timmy, he always made us milkshakes and gave us lollies. The night of the party, the younger kids were with the adults, and the older kids were playing 8-ball at our house. Most of the kids were about 3 to 4 years older than me, and I felt excluded. I was about to go back to the party when I saw Timmy's lights were on. I thought I'd visit him to wish him a Merry Christmas. He lived in a 1-bedroom unit. His front door opened straight into his lounge room, and he always kept the door open. I knocked on the door and he called out to come in. I took a seat on the couch facing the TV. He was sat in an armchair to my right. We just started off with small talk. He offered me a bowl of ice cream while he drank his beer. He had started to pay me a few compliments, telling me how pretty I was and that I'm growing up to be a beautiful woman. I felt uncomfortable because I didn't know how to handle compliments at that age, but no red flags went off in my head. Looking back now, they're glaringly obvious, but at the time, I had no reason to be concerned. He then got up and shut the door. He came over and knelt in front of me. All of a sudden, he kissed me. He rammed his tongue in my mouth and switched it around like a washing machine. My body instantly went into shock. I couldn't move or think. I was so scared and so confused as to why this was happening. It just went from talking to kissing without warning. He didn't even ask me if he could. He didn't sit next to me and try and hold my hand or really anything. Also, I had never kissed anyone before. I was 11 years old, for God's sake. He stopped for a moment and he told me I was really good at kissing. I started crying. He asked me what was the matter. Why was I crying? Then he had started licking my neck all over like a dog. Then he went back to kissing me. Next, he had grabbed my top and was trying to pull it up. I grabbed a hold of it and just shook my head. He asked me why. Why can't he do that? What's the matter? Mind you, at this point, I'm full on crying my eyes out. Finally, my body released itself from the shock and worked with my mind. I got up and ran out of his house. I ran all the way to the neighbor with the party. I just wanted my mom. I went inside and found her. But there was a drunk woman that was in my way. I'd step to the side and she'd block me. I'd go the other way and she'd block me. It was the last thing I needed right now. I then finally managed to push past her. I ran into my mother's arms, just sobbing. She kept asking what was wrong, but I was crying too hard to get any words out. After a few minutes between sobs, I then managed to say that Timmy kissed me. She was so upset. We went home and she went and got my big sister and told her what had happened. She told my sister to look after me and stay at the house. I went into the bathroom. I got a face cloth and scrubbed my face and neck and cleaned my teeth. I wanted to get his gross saliva off me. My mom went up to Timmy's and bashed on the door, but he wouldn't answer. My sister told me that it was my fault that it happened because I shouldn't have gone there by myself. Geez, thanks a lot, sis. That's just what I needed to hear. My mom did make a report to the police. However, I didn't want to go to court, so he wasn't charged. It's safe to say that none of us were allowed to go back to Timmy's again, yet my sister still did. Thanks for listening, everyone. This is not your typical horror story with ghosts, creeps, or murder, but it is one of the scariest events I've ever experienced, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. The date was December 19th, 2013. I was 5 years old at the time. Our family had a tradition on Christmas where we would eat peppermint stick ice cream with waffles for breakfast. I know, random, but a big part of the story. My mom and I had just dropped my older brother off at school, and we were going to our favorite ice cream place to get ice cream. I live in Wisconsin, and a big snowstorm was coming the very next day. So we knew if we didn't get our ice cream that day, we wouldn't get it at all. I remember very clearly we were listening to Christmas music as we came to a bridge over a highway, and then I heard my mom scream. I looked to the left, and the window on the car shattered into pieces. I felt a burning sensation on my forehead, and the car started sliding in the ditch next to us. Now, this isn't your normal ditch. It was probably around a 50-foot drop and incredibly steep. It felt like hours that we were sliding down, but in reality, it was probably only 30 seconds. The moment we hit the bottom, I had started crying. I was in so much pain, and I was only 5, so I didn't exactly understand what was putting me in such agony. My mom looked back at me and saw that I had blood all over my face and clothes. She was already on the phone with 911, frantically telling the dispatcher what happened. I looked into the rearview mirror and saw a deep cut in my forehead, spewing with blood. I started screaming even louder as I was terrified and didn't know what was going to happen to me. When the ambulance arrived, they loaded me onto a stretcher and rolled me back up the hill. As for my mom, she had to walk up the hill with broken ribs. I remember in the ambulance looking up at the ceiling and a single tear rolling down my bloody face. The ride was bumpy and uncomfortable, and I just wanted to go home. When we got to the hospital, they put us into a room and we waited for my dad to arrive. I had to get nearly 30 stitches in the cut on my forehead, and my dad held me the whole time. I don't remember feeling the physical pain, but I do remember screaming so loud that my throat felt raspy. Now, this is the part that I don't recall, but my mom has told it to me countless times. After the stitches were done, we were about to go home when very suddenly I had started throwing up. My head was hit pretty significantly from the crash, and the doctors were worried that I might have a concussion. I got an MRI and was forced to stay at the hospital for 3 more long, boring hours. Finally, I got to go home and spend the night in my own comfortable bed. I thought I'd share some background info with you to make the story a bit more sensible. Our car that we crashed in was a big red Blazer with a strong metal bar right in between the driver's seat and the seat behind it. The truck that hit us smacked dead right in the middle of that pole, saving our lives. If we had crashed even a millisecond later or earlier, either my mom or I would have most likely been killed. I know that most of you aren't going to believe this, but by sheer luck, when our car was sliding down the ditch, it didn't roll over. Another miracle that seems impossible but did somehow happen. You're probably confused on how only my forehead got sliced up during the crash, but it was winter time, and I was wearing a lot of thick warm clothing and had a booster seat protecting my body. The only thing I wasn't wearing was a hat, leaving my head exposed. The last bit I'm going to tell you is the sweetest and most humane thing anyone's ever done for me. On Christmas Eve, the sheriff who was the first on the scene of the accident showed up at our doorstep with peppermint stick ice cream and a heart blanket and a Hello Kitty sweater for me. I still have both of them to this day, and I never intend on getting rid of them. My mom believes there were angels with us that day watching over us. I pray that none of you will ever have to experience this. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to my story, and stay safe out there. I'm a farm kid from the southern United States. My mom is a German lady, and my dad is a mixed Native American man. Due to my parents' cultural backgrounds and growing up rural, I'm familiar with many things relating to the paranormal and that whole category. After graduating high school and having a short, unsuccessful venture into the Navy, I decided to try law enforcement. I got a job offer with the local animal control agency where I started my candidacy training, mostly cleaning up dog crap and explaining to visitors. Yes, we have those apparently. That seeing an opossum minding its own business at 1 a.m. isn't a reason to call law enforcement. On Christmas Eve, I got a call about my own 2 pigs. They somehow escaped their pig pen, ran a distance north, and of all things managed to destroy the village Karen's front lawn. As you can imagine, she made a colossal crap fest about it. After a long and unsuccessful afternoon of attempted hog wrangling, I was eventually ordered to just shoot the pigs, which I did begrudgingly. Due to it being the holiday season, of course the local butcher wasn't open, meaning I couldn't deliver the meat for processing. My dad, who's a mortician, suggested we store the pigs in one of the empty body coolers at the funeral home until we can get the meat processed. With no other way to preserve them, I had to agree. We wrap the pigs in visqueen bags, load them into my van, and drive an hour south to a neighboring town where the funeral home is located. The sun goes down before we get there, so it's pretty dark when we arrive, save for the occasional dim yellow street light. We back the van into the courtyard/loading area where bodies are delivered from the hospital. The pigs were very heavy, weighing at least 200 pounds each. Since it's a considerable distance to the nearest unoccupied cooler, we decided to put the pigs on an old rolling stretcher to save time and energy. Even on the stretcher, the 2 pigs totaled more than 400 pounds, making them hard to move. Halfway through, one of the stretcher wheels bumps on something, and we decided to stop to take a breather. We happened to come to a stop beside the door to one of the coolers, which was locked, indicating that it was currently in use. No sooner than we had stopped, there came a sudden, deliberate, and very frantic banging on the door inside the cooler. It sounded like someone was trapped and trying to get out. To confirm, I gave the door 3 solid knocks. Whoever was in there did the same, and they knocked 3 times back. Thinking some idiot managed to get stuck inside, we located the keys and unlocked the door. When the door popped open, we were very confused to find it empty, save for a couple of long dead frozen bodies. Puzzled, we closed and relocked the door, and then went back to work. We got the pigs into the empty cooler, did a little bit of cleaning, and got ready to leave for the night. On the way back to the van, we had passed that same cooler unit. I stopped, placed my hand against the metal door, and announced loud enough so that anyone inside could hear that I was sorry, but I couldn't help them. After a long moment, I took my hand away and we walked the rest of the way back to the van. We got in, started the engine, and I took a deep breath. I immediately started trying to rationalize what just happened. If I came to work and started telling ghost stories, I knew I'd get an unpleasant call from my supervisor. I needed to find a reasonable explanation. Just then, my window rolled down by itself. Nobody touched the button. It rolled down all the way on its own, letting the cold winter air in. Neither me nor my dad knew what caused it, but decided to not stick around to see what would happen next. Admittedly, I drove a bit over the speed limit. I just wanted to get away from whatever just happened. About halfway home, a thought had crossed my mind. What if whatever did all of this is in the car with us? I thought about what my dad's tribal elders used to say. They warned to not let spirits follow you. We stopped in a convenience store parking lot, and I grabbed an incense stick from the glove box. I lit it and waved it around, making sure the smoke drifted around the cabin. I announced aloud that anything that was trying to follow us was not welcome. After a long minute, when there was enough smoke to make both of us cough, we opened all of the windows to let the smoke out of the vehicle. After this, we drove home, and that was pretty much the end of it. Very little has happened in the time since that night, and I pray that it stays that way. Thanks for listening to my rambling story. I hope it was interesting enough and worth all of your time. After my family returned home following the Christmas holiday in 2013, I remained behind. We had celebrated at a close friend's house where I'd been staying for over a year after leaving an abusive relationship back east. This friend had been part of my life since 2009, someone who had shared holidays with us and whom I trusted deeply. On New Year's Eve, something unusual happened. I came across a lost dog, a Great Dane puppy wandering the street, clearly frightened by the fireworks. I brought him home, kept him safe in the garage, fed him chicken and rice, and made him a bed out of blankets and stuffed animals. I checked lost dog listings constantly, and on January 2nd, I was finally able to contact the owner, who was incredibly grateful. By then, I was preparing to start a new job the following Monday. That Friday night, my friend and I planned around our opposite work schedules. While he worked overnight, I stayed up cleaning, and when he returned around 6 a.m., we intended to rest briefly and spend the day together, finishing a Scrabble game, shopping, and maybe even seeing a movie. Around 5 a.m., I decided to walk down to a nearby bar to watch karaoke. It was something I had done only a few times since moving there the year before. I didn't go to sing, only to observe and briefly chat with the bartender. Unbeknownst to me, a man in the bar had been watching me closely the entire time. At some point, after stepping away briefly, my drink was tampered with. What followed is difficult to recount. I lost awareness and later found myself in a situation where I was harmed repeatedly and violently. I was disoriented, terrified, and unable to fully comprehend what was happening. After several hours, a small child knocked on the door of the room where I was. The man hastily threw clothes at me and told me to get dressed. I soon realized that there was another adult present in the home as well, someone who had been there during the earlier hours. When both men moved to the back of the residence, I saw an opportunity to escape. I ran out through a sliding glass door and fled toward the nearest place I could find help. While running, I turned back briefly and saw the child following me. I reached a nearby residence where a man used his phone to call my friend. When my friend arrived, I ran to his truck and told him that we needed to go to the police immediately. As we drove away, I had noticed the child had followed us from the trailer, though he soon ran back to his father, who was nearby. We drove towards several police cars that were already in the area. Despite my obvious confusion, slurred speech, and physical distress, symptoms later acknowledged by officers on the scene, I was arrested and accused of kidnapping. I was denied medical care despite having severe asthma and repeatedly requested assistance. The man who harmed me claimed I had taken his child, and his statement was accepted without question. During booking and afterward, I was again denied proper medical evaluation. I repeatedly asked to be seen by a sexual assault nurse and to be tested. but official reports later falsely stated that I had refused care. Years later, subpoenas would show that no such refusals were documented by the hospital, nor were any requests on my behalf recorded. I spent 5 years incarcerated until my release in January 2019. Despite a lack of physical evidence supporting the charge, no listed victim, no restitution, and unprocessed DNA, my conviction has never been overturned. I lost nearly a decade of my life fighting a charge for a crime I did not commit. Later, I learned that the other man present in the trailer had moved to Missouri shortly after the assault. Less than a year later, he committed a horrific crime against his own elderly father. The man who harmed me traveled to Missouri to assist him and later brought him back to live with them. These facts were uncovered during my friend's relentless efforts to help prove my innocence. While incarcerated, I encountered individuals who knew of the man who assaulted me. They described him as someone dangerous, involved in criminal activity, and widely avoided. It became pretty clear to me that he was protected and that the system failed me at every level. I'm still fighting. I have evidence that has never been properly examined and DNA that has never been processed. The truth remains buried despite my continued efforts to bring it to light. If there is any lesson in this story, it's this. Never underestimate how quickly a single moment can alter the course of your life. Please be cautious, especially when alone late at night. The consequences can be permanent.